It's been eventful. I started my day yesterday morning at 3 a.m., waking up, flying to Tampa Bay, Florida, and I got home last night around 1 a.m. So it was an eventful day, and I had a very purposeful mission other than my job. I decided to study men in public restrooms. Welcome to the Pete the Planner show. What?
The things you say.
No, but can we talk about this for a second? Dame, you're going to have to just calm down and wait for me for the reveal here. And by reveal, I don't mean nothing was revealed. But Chris, I have something to share with you. I studied men all day long yesterday in public restrooms.
How did it go for you?
Kristen, are you aware as a lady how infrequently men wash their hands post deed? And the deed is just evacuation in a restroom. Are you aware there's an epidemic?
No, because I obviously am not seeing this firsthand, but am I surprised?
First dirty hand. Dame, what do you think? You know this, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is no surprise to anyone who's ever been in a men's restroom. What do you think? 30% of guys, if they don't feel socially pressured because there's other guys washing their hands at that point, if just left unto their own devices, would only 30% would wash their hands.
Yeah, that's about right. Maybe a little low. I'll say this. I again, Kristen, it's disturbing. It makes you never want to shake anyone's hand, touch a handle, touch a table, touch a lap tray on an airplane. It doesn't want to make you touch anything because men are disgusting. Now, I've not been in a women's public restroom in a while.
Good.
Kristen, talk to me about the percentage of women that do not wash their hands.
I don't know that I ever see a woman in a bathroom walk out and not wash her hands.
Dane, we're talking in absolutes here, so we know that there's a problem.
Yeah, there's clearly.
Guys, even at concerts, drunk girls wash their hands.
Okay, I'm confused.
Like I'm saying, it's a busy environment. People are probably not in their best state of mind. Like even in that environment, women are washing their hands.
Are we talking like soap included, or just run the hands underneath water for a courtesy rinse and then you get out?
I mean, is anyone washing their hands properly? No.
Dame, I know you're not currently are or never really were a CNN viewer, but during the pandemic, I very specifically remember Sanjay Gupta teaching me and all of America to wash hands properly.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember watching it. I was rewinding because I was learning things about washing hands. And I'll say, for a while, my wash game was strong.
You were, fluffing yourself up about how strong your hand wash game was around the office. I remember that distinctly.
Gentlemen in the streets, freak of the sinks. I was going in the back. There was all sorts of things. No, Kristen, Sanjay Gupta, if you're watching on the live stream, everyone should be watching on the live stream. He has you wash the back of your hands like this. And now I don't do that move anymore in 2025. I go to just the classics, Dame, this stuff, but I don't go in the back anymore like Sanjay Gupta.
Yeah, I think that's a little overkill for most daily purposes.
People are thrown off by Dame's new decor in his studio.
There's so many changes. I gotta say it's not my favorite, but it's up for a specific reason for things other than the podcast and the radio show. So maybe we'll get back to our normal stuff here.
Slow financial news week.
Yeah, nothing's going on.
You guys, we kind of slacked about it earlier in the week, but it is so wild that we can't even really talk about it yet because it hasn't settled out. It's just like, I don't even know. Actually, I've not seen the jobs report this morning. Have either of you?
Nope.
It was low, wasn't it?
Well,
I mean,
how bad?
Based on all the other news stories I've seen, it was expected to be.
It was slightly less than what they expected, I think, is what the Wall Street Journal. I think that was my notification this morning. I don't remember the number though.
Yeah, not terrible.
151,
151,000 a month, better than the downwardly revised 125, but less than the 170 consensus forecast. Because I thought, well, that's going to set the markets in a crazy place. We are going to cover all that at some point. we are going to talk about tariffs and the markets and all that at some point. You both look concerned. Is my sound getting weird?
It just did that thing where
Yeah.
now you sound far away.
But now you're fine.
Who knows? Okay. Let's do this. Today we're talking credit. Today we are talking credit for a lot of different reasons. I know it's a topic that a lot of people know about, but we're talking about like the history of credit. Does it matter? I mean, not to bury the lead, or actually, I guess the opposite of bury the lead, which would be highlight the lead. My goal is to actually never care about my credit score ever again. And is that a reasonable thing for people to do? Fair?
Yeah.
Dane, we do have a big reveal coming up between segments for you specifically. Damien was beat up at Krav Maga class. That's true. He was punched in the head, and he has a giant bruise on his head.
It's not, you can barely see it at this point.
I saw it on our conversation on Wednesday, and I put in an anonymous call to the authorities. Like, you look like you got beaten by a man 3 times your size.
You should have seen the picture I sent to Kristen on Tuesday morning.
True.
Why? Why didn't you send it to me? Because you were trying to reveal.
I was waiting.
Yeah, you were waiting. Anyway, we will show the audience your beating that you took at Krav Maga.
They're going to be sorely disappointed.
Well, they listen to the show. They're used to being sorely disappointed.
Indeed.
I did get a new mixer. So this is the first show on a new mixer. So there'll be some new elements. Things will be good. Things will be bad. You know how it works. All right. Are we ready for this show?
I suppose.
Kristen's new haircut.
Please don't draw attention to it.
You cut some bangs, girl.
Girl.
Can we have a lady talk real quick?
Go on.
Kristen, I have a wife.
Mm-hmm.
Why are bangs such a big deal in the lady community?
Because, gentlemen,
Okay.
it's a really big deal because they're a pain, but they look good on most people. And so everybody wants bangs like Taylor Swift or Ella Langley because they look so good, but then you have to style them. And what the two of you may not recognize with your bald privilege is that it makes your entire week's routine, you have to take your bangs into consideration.
Yeah, this is the answer I didn't know that I didn't want. You know? But like bangs are like a thing. I remember my wife was like, I'm thinking about cutting bangs, and I don't know what reaction she expects out of me. Like, oh, thank God. Oh, finally. I thought you'd never bring this up.
They're a lot of work.
How often do you have I've known you 6 years, 7 years?
Mm-hmm.
Dame, did you know at any point in time in this that Kristen had bangs?
Yeah, but I was just thinking, like, you've always had hair beyond your shoulders, right?
Yes.
How much would
bangs?
How much would it cost? No. Well, how much would it take to get you to cut your hair like chin level?
A lot of money.
The haired people of this world take their hair way too seriously. Dame, have you ever thought that you and I are victims of hate crimes as it relates to the anti-bald movement in this country?
So having somebody throw bald privilege at me was not something I was anticipating this morning.
It is a privilege. I can't work out before work and then do my hair before work. You know what time I would have to get up?
When I get up?
Earlier than that.
Never.
It takes so much time.
All right, so listen, I've got the ultimate travel hack coming up in the break here in a couple segments after we tell Dame's Krav Maga beating. But let's get to the credit report. So again, there's a new element here I'm trying out. If everyone just calms down, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. We'll figure it out. But I have to draw a distinction between the podcast and the radio show. For those that don't know, this is a show within a show within a show. We're a live stream that turns into a podcast, but within the podcast, we record a radio show. And I've been told that there needs to be some distinction.
It sounds a lot like an apology before you do this.
Well, I don't know how it's going to go, but have your clocks ready. Ready?
Alert, alert. It's time for a radio segment.
I was gonna go in 3, 2, 1, but I can't. All right, we're gonna try that again. Can you guys be professional?
I'll just mute myself and
No.
laugh. You're the one who has to actually say something.
Good call.
Listen, ever since you've cut bangs, you can't keep it together.
I know, I'm falling apart.
Alert, alert. It's time for a radio segment.
Okay. This is a mistake. In 3, 2. Doug was telling me out in the office today that I never laugh. And I'm like, well, I don't laugh a lot. But when I do, it's usually because of this nonsense. Oh. All right, 3, 2, 1. This week on the Pete the Planner Show, we answer your money questions. Here's how the show works. You can email us, askpete@petetheplanner.com. That's askpete@petetheplanner.com. We'll answer your emails. And then that email often becomes the entire topic of the show, which Kristen Elanius, newly coiffed Kristen Elanius, joins us. Hello, Kristen.
Hello.
And Damian Dunn. Hi,
Thanks. Good day.
All right. Hey, so this week we're talking credit.
Mm-hmm.
Credit's one of those things everyone thinks they know everything about. There's some sinister things behind the scenes with credit. Credit has been accused of being inequitable at times for some. And there's a lot of validity to that. And so what we're going to do is we got a question on credit. So we're going to start there. And then for the next few segments, we're going to talk about the controversy, the evolution, best practices. But before we begin, let's just do a little vibe check here. I will start. I have good credit, but I don't try to maintain it. I don't try to do anything silly. It's just I don't plan on ever borrowing again. So I'm at a stage in my life where my credit's fine, 800 something, whatever. I will never borrow again. And so I don't know how much I care about that core score. But as we talk today, there's more elements to how your credit score affects your life than just interest rates. So Kristen, current relationship with credit?
I have good credit. I care too much about it. And that's because I'm hoping to buy a house. And so I'm an anxious girly, and I am just so afraid that there's going to be a mistake on my credit report, which we'll talk about later, and that would somehow prevent me from being able to buy a house. So I care too much, but I do have good credit.
Dame, something tells me that you and I might be aligned on this.
Would I love to be in a position to not borrow again? Yes. Based on my family's jobs, the careers that we have, we're a little bit more closely aligned, I should say, with needing to use credit occasionally than we otherwise would be if we had some other profession. So I don't anticipate us walking away from or not needing credit in the future, but hopefully minimizing our occasional dependence on it.
Which brings us to the listener email. Dear Pete, I keep hearing about how important my credit score is, but honestly, I don't really understand how much it actually affects my life. Is this something I should obsess over, or is it just another financial scare tactic? And so, Kristen, I love this because you've insinuated that you do obsess over your credit score. Is it because it's a financial metric and there are not a ton of financial metrics that are as common as credit score? Is that part of it for you?
Oh, absolutely it is. I want to be the best at everything that I can be measured. And when you're giving me this number that, well, Kristen, like, you have to be as good as you can be in this particular category, that is part of it, despite the fact that I know better. We talked about this on the show a couple years ago. That was something that I made a really conscious effort in doing in 2024, was to stop obsessively checking my credit score.
How's that going?
It actually is going really well. I only look when I get my credit card statement, and that's just because it's there, not because I'm seeking it out specifically.
So you don't obsess over it, but you do look at it every month.
Well, that's not obsessive. It's just the information is already there.
Dame?
Kristen, Well, I honestly, I couldn't tell you the last time I, on my own accord, went out and looked at my own credit score. Usually it's just presented to me in some
See?
shit. But Kristen, I'm curious. I talked to somebody a couple years ago whose personal goal was to try and achieve a perfect credit score.
Yeah.
Do you think you would be interested in doing that, or are you just happy being in the top tier, or whatever you want to call it?
Absolutely not. The only reason, like I said, that my credit score even matters is because of this home buy that we're hoping to do. I don't have any desire to have like a perfect credit score. I just have to make sure that it's not trending in the wrong direction that would indicate there would be like some sort of error or something that I've missed.
Well, maybe back up for a second here, and I'll put it to you this way. Do you think, Dame, that a credit score is representative of a person's overall financial health?
Maybe in a very minor way, but all the credit score is going to do is give you some kind of indication on how good you are at repaying loans or repaying money that you've borrowed. Pete, Kristen, you and I have all seen people who on the exterior have had a good credit score and been absolute disasters in their financial lives. So is it representative of a very small portion of their financial life? To a degree, a bit. In its entirety, though, no, you cannot rely on a credit score to be an accurate indicator of somebody's financial health or stability.
On a scale of 1 to 10 of the quality of assessment that it is for a person's overall health, I think it's about a 4 out of 10 personally. Dan?
I was going to say 5.
Kristen, what do you think?
I think it's less than that.
Really?
Yeah. And because your credit score can be lower than what is representative of your current reality for a really long time. So, someone's current financial health could be equivalent to a really high credit score, but because they maybe had late payments or high balances, or maybe they filed bankruptcy a number of years ago, their credit score could be in a totally different place than their actual financial health. So, I think it's like a 3.
I live a good conspiracy theory as much as the next podcaster. But I can tell you this. I really do believe that credit scores are a gamification to get us to spend more money, and more importantly, and more succinct, to help organizations sell data about us for monetary gain. Dame, you also trade in conspiracy theory from time to time. What do you feel about that?
I buy in 100% to the second part of it. I had to pause as I was trying to think about your first point about getting us to try and spend more money, but I'm assuming you're saying that because you would either have to get out different kinds of credit to try and increase your credit score, or maybe keep transactions up and lower your credit usage overall. So you're spending money to buy and reduce your credit just to have a good credit history. Is that kind of where you were going with the a game to spend money?
Yeah, here at Your Money Line, we have a credit score tool within our platform, and I ran mine a couple months ago, and my score was not perfect. But one of the factors that made it not perfect was that I didn't have diverse enough of credit. That I didn't have different types of credit lines.
Mhm.
I have a mortgage. That's kind of it. I got a revolving credit card situation, but I don't have a home equity line. I don't have a car loan. I don't have student loans. And I think the idea that I have to prove that I'm good at managing debt by having a bunch of different types of debt, I find that fundamentally ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all.
So let's do this before we go to the break, because we're going to cover this the history specifically in the next segment. Kristen, do you care in the next minute or so to tell the difference between a credit report and a credit score and why they're distinctively different?
Yeah, I think we get so hung up on our credit scores, but really that credit report is so important because that is your history of your credit. Your credit report is going to show every payment that you've made, every balance that you've had for the last 7 years. Now, all the information that's on your credit report is used to generate some version of your credit score, but that report is really the source of truth.
What's interesting about that, and we're going to get into it in the next segment, is there really used to not be much of an automated system. Everything, loans were manually underwritten. And from time to time, people still want their loans manually underwritten for very distinct reasons. So we're going to cover that next. So the silent score controlling your life, credit scores. This week on the Pete the Planner Show, I'm Pete the Planner. Okay. Dame, you take martial arts. Is Krav Maga a martial art?
It depends on who you talk to. It's not very well thought of in a lot of circles.
Oh, geez. Who knew? So wait, you take like the puniest martial arts? Isn't Tai Chi the puniest martial arts? It's just stretching.
Yeah. Tai Chi is probably a little bit lower for self-defense.
Okay. So Dame, you take Krav Maga.
Yeah.
List the top 3 reasons why you are involved with Krav Maga. Or I can guess.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Number 1, it's good physical fitness and stress relief for you.
Yeah.
Probably number 1.
Yeah, love it.
Number 2, your body's a weapon. And if you need to unleash that weapon to protect those that you love, you are trained to do it.
Probably not nearly as impressive as you're making it sound, but yeah, that's part of it.
This is a point you've expressed to me a number of times over the years that we've discussed this.
Sure.
Number 3, I don't have a third reason. Those feel like the 2 reasons of why you do it.
It's the camaraderie.
That's another part of it too.
You like to roll around. Is it rolling around in Krav Maga?
Yeah, there's groundwork.
Okay. So Dame, every week you roll around?
Some weeks I don't. Like this coming week I'm teaching. I'm not getting punched.
Oh, master. So you are teaching Krav Maga this week. Are you teaching how to get struck in the head and bruised? Because this past week when you were a student and not the teacher, can you reveal? People need to go to youtube.com/Pete the Planner to see the live stream. Oh my gosh.
But you can kind of still see it there.
You can definitely still see it. You know what? Let me go full screen for you here for those. Oh, yeah. Yes. Walk us through what happened.
Well, technically I was teaching last week too. I was one of the 2 designated people that were going to be the bad guy. And apparently I was pretty good because I got punched a couple times for it. So yeah, a couple different students. One of them ripped the helmet off that I had on. That was the one that's in the middle that caused a friction burn. The other one, a guy that could probably be playing defensive end for the Colts, punched me in the head and bruised me up. So,
Kristen, have you ever taken any self-defense classes?
1.
Did you have bangs then?
No.
Okay. Here's what I've learned so far today in talking to Dame. If you're getting attacked, the first thing you do is you rip off the attacker's helmet. Right? And then you strike them in the head. That's what I've learned.
I've learned that I don't think that my temper could be in a class like that because I would hold a grudge against the person who hit me, even though they were doing what they were supposed to do.
Let's talk tempers for a second here. Who's got the biggest temper on the show? Chris? Is it you? I think it might be Kristen.
It's probably me, honestly.
Yeah.
Do you guys think I have much of a temper? You've seen me get heated, Dame, but not super heated.
Yeah, but you're so good at like staying collected. Like,
yeah, I'm a liar, is what you're saying. I'm a really good liar.
You're a performer.
There you go. I did a keynote yesterday down in Tampa. I said some weird stuff. Like, just in review, I'm thinking back. That's some weird stuff.
You didn't tell him you spent all day studying men in the bathroom, did you?
Probably.
No, I didn't.
Okay, good.
But I made a weird fashion choice. I wore white jeans, like travel jeans, a white t-shirt, and then like a blue deconstructed sort of blazer. It was kind of a warm weather resort look. But as I'm standing on the stage it's again, it's a financial conference, but it's sort of like a casual financial conference. It occurred to me if I didn't have the jacket on, I'd look like a commercial painter, because I'm just wearing all white. And at one point, I was like, I'm talking, and it occurs to me mid-sentence, and I'm like, hey, look, I don't know if you want to take advice from a guy who looks like a commercial painter unless he found a blue jacket. And it's those elements when they come out, I'm like, the heck is wrong? What happened? Who punched me in my Krav Maga,
Did you get chuckles?
Yeah, I think they could have been sorrowful. You don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So, Kristen, you're telling me that as part of your head protection strategy, bangs are how you protect your forehead?
I regret this.
Here's one for you. Oh, this is Ian. This is Jan, listener of the year, possibly. Pete was going through a pit bull phase. I did get from a few people there, friends who wanted to make fun of me, that I looked like Pitbull. So there you go. Any bald man in white looks like Pitbull. I will say this too: wearing all white, weird choice. I won't do it again.
I can't believe you traveled. Did you have backup pants?
We will talk about that during the next break.
Okay.
Oh no.
Okay.
Alert, alert. It's time for a radio segment.
In 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner Show serious episode here today. We talk credit scores. I know it's an elementary topic. We got an email about it, and it more than anything, it made me want to talk about the evolution and the controversies around credit reports. So, Dame Kristen, are you okay if I take us to school a little bit about credit reports?
Go for it.
Okay. First, Dame, real quick, credit. Who are the credit bureaus? What just summarize them in a minute or so. Like,
right.
what are they doing?
Credit bureaus are the folks who are controlling that silent score that we all stress over at different times. Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion are going to be collecting the data, calculating the score based on some algorithms, using, Kristen, is it FICO 7?
Oh, there's a bunch of them.
I know, but did they all use the same one? Primary. What?
Oh, I think FICO 8's the one that
FICO 8's the one they're using, right? So
it's like Fast and Furious. There's just like different ones. Too fast, too FICO.
So they're going to calculate it, and then they're going to use that data that they collect on you and that score to make money for themselves as well.
I cynically call them the data bureaus. I don't know why. I'm like, oh, they're more like the data bureaus. Because truth be told, all your swipes and all your stuff goes there. And then they sell that data to marketers who want to market something specific to the people that have your habits. And that's how your own data is used against you to separate you from your money. Kristen, cynical or true or both?
I mean, I think it's both.
Yeah. It didn't always go this way. Before credit reports ever existed, which they became centralized in the 50s and the 60s. That's the 1900s, folks. Lending was based on personal relationships with local bankers or store owners. Now, I want to talk about this for a second, because this is where I believe inequity was rampant, right? That in the Black community in the mid 1800s, once slavery ended, there was a bank called the Freedmen's Bank, right? We've talked about it amongst the three of us. Did we talk about it on the show a couple of weeks ago, maybe?
Briefly last week.
So it was like the primary bank in which Black Americans banked and had banking relationships, and then that bank failed for all sorts of reasons. And so then a large portion of the Black community in the United States was not trusting of the banking industry. And that's where you get the term unbanked, and you didn't have these personal relationships. So the failing of the Freedmen's Bank, like 1860s, 1870s, through 1950s, 1960s, if lending, Dame, was based on personal relationships with a banker, it's pretty easy to see why Black Americans really struggled to get credit extended to them during that time frame.
Sure. Beyond that, I mean, anybody who has a good relationship with a banker is much more likely to get the credit that they want at that point, even if they might be a somewhat riskier choice than somebody who might have good credit but just isn't a known quantity, or a good relationship but not a very known quantity. So there's all sorts of biases that went into credit approval at that point, and it was much more of a who you know rather than who you are.
And to your point, some of this data that was gathered early in the 20th century, early 1900s, was based on payment history. Now, Kristen, if we stripped everything else away from credit scores and how they're calculated, and we had to choose one element that made a person credit worthy or not, personally, I'd go with payment history. I don't know about you, but that's where it all started. Would that be your lever?
I think I might have to disagree with that, actually.
Great. Makes for good radio.
And the reason is because someone can make their payments on time, but if there's someone who's continuing to borrow more and more and their utilization is going up, that to me speaks to their future more than their past speaks to whether I would want to loan them money. Yeah, I want them to pay their payments on time, but also if they're continuing to overextend themselves from a credit perspective, I don't know that I want to be the person who offers them that next line of credit.
Wouldn't you just take into account how much money they're making and offset that? I mean, maybe the percentage is roughly the same, even though they're taking out more and more credit.
Of course, debt to income ratio is important, but I think if we're just speaking to the components of your credit score, I think utilization for me is more telling than your payment history, if I had to pick.
Let me bring up an example, which is such an oversimplification and does this entire conversation an injustice.
Lovely.
Dame, have you ever been a landlord?
No.
By the way, that is so surprising to me.
Really?
I feel like you and I have like truly 99 out of 100 parallel experiences. I'm surprised you've never been a landlord.
So here's the reason I wouldn't. Because I would give people way too many passes.
Wow. That's the opposite problem I have. Had.
Yeah.
Kristen, no landlording?
None for me.
And not even current property?
No.
Okay.
The closest thing I've had is like roommates who rented a room, but I don't know that that really counts.
Maybe I lack empathy, which I don't believe I do, but maybe I do. But I'll tell you, as a landlord, when someone is late on their payment, and again, there could be a great reason why, could be a terrible reason why. Some activates in you when someone owes you that large a chunk of money and it is late, the payment history is not great, that makes you feel like, yeah, that really matters as much as anything. Dame, do you think you'd feel that way? Again, I believe you to be right, Dame. I believe that you would cut people too many breaks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't been in that position where people owe me a significant amount of money, but I can see your point. That may have more influence over me than what I'm thinking of, but I don't know. I still don't think I'm cut out for landlording.
Well, by the 1950s, 1960s, the big three credit bureaus sort of came online, and it was in the late 1980s, that's 1980s, that Kristen's favorite thing in the world, FICO scores, became a standardized credit risk assessment. But Dame, the problem there was it was like KFC. There was a blend of herbs and spices, but no one knew. And so this black box, wait, why do I have a 622? There was so much mystery that it was... I don't love throwing this term around, but it felt unfair.
Sure. Anytime that you are being judged by criteria that you have no idea what that is, how in the world do you know how to improve your score or whatever is being judged at that point? So I think it's largely unfair to judge somebody and not tell them how to improve themselves.
Kristen, what's weird about this in the 1970s, and in fact, 1970 is when the Fair Credit Reporting Act passed. Yet into the late 80s, there were still problems around transparency. Yet to this day, even here at Your Moneyline, where we help hundreds of thousands of people with their financial lives, we have to, I was going to say steer clear, but that makes it sound nefarious. But we have to be sensitive to the Fair Credit Reporting Act so that people's rights are honored, right? I mean, so what's the complexity to you of how the Fair Credit Reporting Act helps people?
Yeah, the Fair Credit Reporting Act it's great for the consumer, but also you have to understand the protections that it awards you as the consumer. So if you're being treated in a way that is not in accordance with the Fair Credit Reporting Act, you actually have to know that that's happening, which I think is the most difficult part of it all, is if someone is denying you access to, let's say you applied for credit with a lender, they told you couldn't have that credit. They have to give you your credit report that they pulled. But if you don't know that, how can you even advocate for yourself in those situations?
I agree. And we're going to talk more about that after the break. One of the elements of that, why I think it's important, is when an employer runs your credit, or when your property and casualty company runs your credit to set your insurance premiums. When we come back, we're going to talk about the infamous Equifax data breach of 2017 and how that comes into play for all of this. It's the credit episode. I'm Pete the Planner. Okay. Okay, so the goal here is this. I want you guys to be as honest with me as humanly possible.
Hey.
Kristen, can you do that?
I can.
Kristen, you and I have a one-on-one this afternoon, right?
Indeed.
So be as honest with me as you want to be. Dame, my flight landed at Tampa International Airport yesterday morning at 7:10 a.m.
Okay.
I'm speaking at a suburban office building at 3 p.m. in a conference room.
Okay.
I tell you this because typically when I go speak somewhere, I'm speaking at a hotel conference center.
Mm-hmm.
And with that comes the ability to have space and to not be in the conference area and do your own thing and all of this. But I don't have a hotel room yesterday because I'm in and out, right? Mm-hmm. I had some buddies on the ground that said, hey, not a lot of space to spread out here. So I made this executive decision, and this is where you can tell me whether this is cool, uncool, ethical, unethical. Here we go. I went to a 5-star resort. And I lobby squatted for like 7 hours. So I used their Wi-Fi. I used their beautiful decor and beautiful smells. I used their wonderful restroom facilities and changing facilities to change my clothes in the men's locker room. I had a delightful lunch, which I paid for. But there was another conference going on. So as I choose to arrive on property, I thought, I want to just look like I'm the keynote speaker at some other conference. So I walk in the conference area as opposed to walking in the front desk area and then make my way to the front desk through a auxiliary hallway. Mm-hmm. I travel in athleisure. And I had a change of clothes. So, Kristen, that hits your don't travel in white pants. Oddly enough, my athleisure pants were also white yesterday. I'm going through my white phase. Yeah. So, Dame, we'll start with you. Is lobby squatting genius travel hack, or is there some ethical concerns around that?
I think it was a shrewd move. I think you're fine on that.
Kristen?
I think because you had lunch there, I think that makes it okay. So
one lunch, I think I had some coffee and breakfast too, equals 7 hours of squatting.
Yes.
Great. How about this one? You're on the road. You're traveling. Your stomach hurts. It's time to find a restroom. And in that restroom, people may or may not be washing their hands. Instead of going to a gas station or a restaurant or a truck stop, where I usually like to go, you go to a local office building, Class A office space, and you just find the restroom in the office building. Another travel hack. Dame, unethical or shrewd?
If they're public restrooms, they're public restrooms.
Oh, he's so right. Kristen?
No.
I want to have an app that shows where these restrooms are and then rate whether they have 2-ply or not. Would you download that?
I know somebody in my family would.
Wow. Maybe let's not name names on the air here. Kristen doesn't value the same things that you and I value, Dame.
She'll get there.
Here's what she values. Some population of her hair is cut shorter than the other population of her total hair.
Talk about privilege.
Can you pull the bangs out so we can see them?
No.
Why?
I know. I will work on styling my hair this next week, and then we'll see.
Dame, you had bangs when you had hair.
I'm sure at some point I did. I mean, in the 80s.
I've told this story before, but when I got engaged, I was going with the Caesar, the Clooney, the little comb down in the front.
Mm-hmm.
And so my engagement pictures of the night I proposed to Mrs. Planner, my hair was so bad. It's so bad. Oh, it's no good. Anywho.
Yeah.
Let's do the rest of the radio show.
Alert, alert. It's time for a radio segment.
In 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner show. If you want to watch this show, which sounds weird, this is like a meta thing going on right now. You're driving around in your car, you're going to grab yard ornaments, and you're thinking, how can I watch this? Well, go to youtube.com/Pete the Planner and you can watch this show. Talking credit reports, Kristen, in 2017, the unthinkable happened.
What?
Unthinkable?
No, in 2017, there was a massive Equifax data breach. Do you remember prior to this time, Kristen, thinking, there's a lot with data privacy, there's a lot with hacks and all these different things. The worst thing in the world that could actually happen is if someone broke into the credit bureaus and there was a breach at that level. You were probably like 13 when this happened, but do you remember this?
Can I be so honest with the two of you right now?
Sure.
I don't even really allow something like this event to carry a whole lot of water. And maybe my fellow millennials and Gen Z can relate to this. I just assume that my data is compromised, you guys. Like, I don't attribute this to like one specific breach. I don't think about one specific incident. I just assume that like everyone has my personal information, and that's just the world that I live in.
Damn, I don't think you and I disagree with that, do we?
No, not at all. If somebody wants my information, they're going to find a way to get it. And if it happens to be part of some big, huge breach, then welcome to the party. You're going to see exactly what I got.
I do feel like 2017, when that occurred, was the panacea, right? Like it was the moment that your feelings and your acquiescence became reality. Around that time, I looked up this book right now. I'm trying to see when it was published. 2015. Okay, so 2015, February 24th, 2015, Mark Goodman wrote a book called Future Crimes. Everything is connected, everyone is vulnerable, and what we can do about it. For some reason, I decided to read this book and to terrify myself in 2015. Hey, y'all, if you want to be terrified, read this book or just read any article about AI at this point. Kristen, the weird thing is everything that was said in this book has come true in the 10 years since it's been published about how much your data is out there and how much it is used against you. So that is to say, if Equifax can get hacked, anyone can get hacked. Anyone, right?
Yeah, that's probably true, because I can't even imagine the data security that they thought that they had at that time that was able to be compromised.
Yeah, Dame, anytime there's a credit breach now, it happens with health insurance companies or retailers, and then they give you data protection and this or that. We kind of all take it for granted now. Like there's a data breach every day and people are like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's just water under the bridge. It's a daily part of life at this point. I mean, if we stop and try and think about how many people legitimately have our information, it would probably shock us. To go much beyond that is, there are steps you can take to mitigate this, and I'm sure we're going to get to that here soon. But if you've taken the steps to do that, it becomes less of an issue for you and less of a worry too.
My biggest challenge with all this conversation is we're looking at all these outside factors of people, nefarious things, but the reality is some of the biggest risks in all of this are just the errors that exist on a person's credit report. what's the number? 20% of people
Yeah.
have an error on their credit report. There are, what's 20% of 3? 1/6. Wait, I don't know. Here's the thing. Like my leg has an error on my credit report because it's a fractional piece of me. 1 in 5, guys. That's a lot of errors.
It's a lot of errors. And we're seeing that. I mean, we've seen some student loan headlines here of late of misreporting on credit reports that people are trying to get corrected. That's one of the biggest reasons why I'm checking my score pretty consistently, is because if there would be an error, that would probably be the first indication that my score had decreased.
And if you figure out that basically 1 in 5 people don't have credit scores or reports because they're either credit invisible or there's just not enough data there to bring this up into having a file, it narrows that pool of people down even more. So if you've got a credit score, it's even more likely that you have an error. Well, 1 in 5.
Oh.
So what is the modern advice as it relates to credit scores, credit reports, credit visibility, all of these sorts of things? In my mind, make this better, please. In my mind, it's just freeze your credit. Just freeze your credit. Have it frozen all the time. And that's going to solve, 80% of the problems that could occur here? Kristen, is there anything wrong with that idea?
I don't think that there's anything wrong with it, but I think that like most things in our lives, we don't tend to take action until we're in a position where we're already compromised. So that's generally the problem, is someone doesn't take the seriousness that we're approaching this conversation with. They don't take it that seriously until they're the victim of some kind of error or identity theft or misuse of their credit. And then you have to go back and undo it. So we can say this until we're blue in the face, but the reality of the situation is that's just our human nature, is to not take action until we're actually inconvenienced or pushed to a point where we have to do something about it.
Yeah, you got to be proactive. You take a few minutes. Take even if it's just 1 credit bureau a day. It won't take you that long. Do it for everybody that's got a credit, has credit in your house, and knock it out. And then set up a regular reminder on your phone just to go out and take a peek at your credit reports at annualcreditreport.com. They're free. Used to be you could only get them once a year, but now you can get them every week. That's since the pandemic. So you don't have to worry about trying to stagger them out through the year. You check whatever you want almost whenever you want. Make sure it's accurate. Make sure there's nothing else going on out there that you weren't aware of that should be, so you can get it squashed before it becomes something that is really out of control. And to say it would be an inconvenience to get it corrected might be a massive understatement. So freeze your credit, all 3 credit bureaus, and set up a regular schedule to check your credit reports online.
Kristen, here's something near and dear to your heart. Student loan delinquencies apparently are about to hit credit reports in a very, very massive way. I got to be honest, as we start to discuss this here, I have mixed feelings about this. I do feel if a person completely ignores their student loans or is unable to make good on those promises that they made, and not that promises weren't kept on the other side, but at least with their end of it, it should probably be reflected in their credit worthiness, no?
Yeah, it's so hard because there's so much nuance in this conversation, but I don't disagree. If we're not making those minimum monthly payments, and you also, in the federal student loan space in particular, have so many opportunities, not right now because of some, especially this week, some things that we've seen in like the IDR space, but historically you've had so many opportunities to go in, reduce your payment based on your income, to make your repayment terms more flexible. And once again, we're back to, as people, we tend to not be proactive about those things. And the lack of delinquencies, unfortunately, has put us in this place where now, when all of these things are being caught up on, we could see some significant impact for borrowers.
Just to give you some context, around 9.2 million people, that's about 43% of the roughly 22 million borrowers with payments due, are behind on their payments, according to the Vantage Score report that this is all being derived from.
What percentage of people are behind?
43% of the 22 million borrowers.
Look, this segment was never meant to get into the Department of Education and what's all possibly going to happen with student loans and FAFSA and all those sorts of things. But when you combine what we've talked about just now with that news that is going to happen very soon, it's alarming to be quite honest.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do this. Let's take a break. Speaking of waste of money, not that an educate. Anyway, we're coming up after the break. Biggest waste of money of the week, and then Dame has his news. Dame's news is everyone's favorite part of the show because he's such a good reader. All that's next, right here on the Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner. Kristen, what are you and your bangs doing this weekend?
We're moving our friends into their new house.
How far do they live from you?
From my house now, they live like 15 minutes, but they're only moving a mile up the road.
Dame, do you get the feeling in Kristen's neck of the woods that people just move a mile at any given time? That's because I feel like every time we talk about moving with Kristen, it's like, yeah, they moved a click to the north. And then it's like every time.
I mean, to be fair, that might be a huge move from feeling like where you are currently to the property that you are moving to might be significant.
Yeah, they're moving from a 700 square foot house to a 5-bedroom house with a full basement on 3 acres.
Yeah.
It's a huge move for them, even though it's right
Jeez.
up the street.
Which lottery did they win?
They did not. They've been looking for a house for a really long time. And we're really fortunate in that we now get to see them raise their family in what was Tom's dad's house. So it's really special for us.
Wow, government names coming out on the show today.
Well, it's a little shocking.
Holy Moses.
Well, they've already got that information, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, sorry. Are you going to get pizza for helping them move? Because that is the universal thanks for helping us move food.
Yeah. Katie already texted us 2 days ago and was like,
what are you, a government informant? What are these people's socials? Like
she texted us 2 days ago and was like, we're getting pizza. Okay, awesome.
Dame, I'm at the age where no one helps me to move. Ask me to help them move. No one.
If you did, they'd be sore for a week and a half. You just don't want that liability on your new home and homeowner's policy.
I will say though, my daughter turns 16 this coming week, which is wild.
Yeah,
won't be too long until she's in college. I'll be that schluppy dad that's walking up 4 flights at some dorm, and then it's just another 10 years of moving her to wherever she goes.
There it is.
Yeah. Can't believe I have a 16-year-old. My car insurance is gonna be brutal.
You're gonna have to let me know how that goes.
Oh, we'll talk about it on the air. Don't you worry.
Jeremiah, David Allan Coe wrote the perfect country and western song.
Oh,
just by the way.
Wow. Great. Here's what I've chosen to not bring up on the show is that my son had a financial literacy pop quiz this week and did not do well. And I'm not bringing it up.
Okay, that's good.
I'm so glad that you didn't bring that
I
up.
was told that would be unfair.
Unfair.
So I'm not going to.
If he wouldn't have done well, is there a general topic that might not have?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I feel like I'm like, man, it's in your blood, man. Just feel it flow, Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Alert, alert. It's time for a radio segment.
This week's biggest waste of money of the week, right here on the Pete the Planner Show, is the Saint Laurent and Bang & Olufsen Baogram 4000C turntable. Released in the early 1970s, the Bang & Olufsen Baogram 4000. Timeout.
Granted.
The Baogram 4000 sounds like a robot, does it not, Dame?
Yes.
Baogram 4000.
Well done.
Thank you. Oh, wait. I got to turn that off. How do I do it? Uh-oh. There we go. Now, Saint Laurent creative director Anthony Vaccarello and B&O, which stands for Body and Odor, have teamed up to lovingly revive 10 examples. These Baogram 4000C models have bases of Zeracote, a South American hardwood often used in instruments, refreshed electronics, and the player's signature aluminum top plate, now adorned with etching indicating their limited edition nature. Available now from the Saint Laurent Rivedro. I don't know. How much is this? How much is this turntable from Saint Laurent and Kristen's favorite brand, Bangs and Olufsen?
Lovely. There's only 10 of these.
Did I say that?
Yeah.
I think you said 10.
Okay, there's 10.
These are, that's such a luxury brand.
Did I say there's only 10?
Yeah.
I thought that's
The
what
limited run of 10, I think.
Limited edition.
Refurbishing 10 or something.
No one knows. All right, what do you think? Yeah, there's 10. There's 10.
Oh gosh, this is such an expensive brand. These are $6,000.
Okay. Dame?
I was going to say, ooh, she's got me thinking now. Because I was going to say $3,500. So I'm probably it's going to be like 12 or 15 or something.
$35,000. Man, this segment will never get old. I mean, it's $35,000 for a record player. What do we do? Who owns this?
I think it's kind of cool.
Dame, what? Oh, is it? You gonna get a mortgage for a record player, Chris?
Well, I mean, if I had that kind of disposable income, this is the kind of thing that I would buy.
Dame, what's in the news this week?
Get out the salsa because more chips are coming to the desert. That's right. The biggest semiconductor producer in the world, TSMC, is expanding operations in Phoenix. Following a meeting with the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company CEO this week, President Trump announced plans that the Taiwanese company to invest $100 billion in the U.S. over the next 4 years. The deal expands upon TSMC's previous $65 billion investment in Phoenix to build factories, for which it has received as much as $6.6 billion in grants through the CHIPS Act. But they also smoothed out a sticking point as TSMC agreed to bring over its most advanced technology rather than older legacy tech it had already brought to America. If we zoom out, TSMC joins a slew of tech companies, including OpenAI, Oracle, SoftBank, and Apple, that have become ardent supporters of U.S. investment in the last few months, which, of course, is great news. I mean, it's objectively great news, isn't it, Pete?
I'm not looking for bad news within it, but if I was, it would be hard to find bad news within that. It is, I guess, American manufacturing, American jobs. Is that the way to look at this?
And investment, jobs, a little security by having more of the technology that our stuff's going to rely on produced inside of our own borders.
Kristen?
You guys.
Uh-oh.
They're bringing this to Phoenix?
Yeah.
Where there's no water and the city gets hotter all the time?
Jeez.
Like, I'm not sure. That's the bad news within is like the location.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the people who build the stuff know where it is and isn't viable to build stuff.
I actually disagree with that. I mean, that's happening in Indiana. People are trying to build manufacturing facilities where the water table can't support it, allegedly.
I don't know. I have strong feelings about that in particular, obviously, but I don't know that the location is great, but otherwise it seems like a good story.
Yuma would know, Kristen. You've lived there.
Indeed.
But, that's an interesting point. There's a lot of energy that is both required and the natural resources that come with that. Dame, we were looking for this is good news. Kristen just said, bang, bad news.
Well, and to your point about the natural resources, I used to get letters in the mail in the summer that the grid couldn't handle trying to cool down desert cities because it gets to be 120 degrees. What kind of energy does it take to cool however big this plant is going to be?
I honestly did not expect this to go this way.
I'm gonna expect there's gonna be a lot of solar that goes into this for the energy side of things. The water side,
I thought we abandoned alternative sources of energy.
I think individual companies can do whatever the heck they want as long as it doesn't.
Dame, I love this. I love the Dame's you know what? No one can disagree with this.
Yeah.
And then Kristen just brought her axe, started chopping down the tree.
She's allowed to be wrong. I have faith in the people who invested billions and billions of dollars into this endeavor that they've figured out how to do that.
I'm kind of with Kristen on this one, but
Okay.
but other than that, it's great news. We'll see. How about this? We'll see.
What else is in the news?
Financial emergencies are pushing more Americans to break into the 401k accounts. There's some good news for you, you two.
Oh, man.
Some 4.8% of account holders took early withdrawals last year for reasons such as preventing foreclosures and paying medical bills. That's right. That's a record high, according to the Vanguard Group, which administers 401k type accounts for nearly, this was a surprising number to me, 5 million people. That's it?
Wait, 5 million people what?
It says Vanguard Group, which administers 401k type accounts for nearly 5 million people.
No, that's, I mean, no, not even close.
Doesn't seem like that's even possible.
It has to be.
Sounds like a rounding error for them.
50 million.
I would believe that. But anyway, on with the story.
Sorry.
Increasingly popular automatic enrollment gives more workers savings to tap into, and Congress has made it easier to use retirement savings for emergencies. People who take hardship withdrawals from traditional 401k accounts must pay income tax plus often a 10% penalty if they're younger than 59 and a half years old. And then Congress, back in 2018, they passed a law doing away with a requirement to take 401k loans before hardship distributions, which has significantly increased hardship use. The number of distributions may rise in the future, too, as 401k plans launch a provision of the 2022 law that allows one penalty-free annual withdrawal of up to $1,000 for emergency expenses. That amount has to be repaid before taking another such withdrawal.
5 million American workers have a Vanguard administered 401k as of 2023. This figure represents a portion of the approximately 72 million Americans participating in 401ks nationwide.
Huh.
That's such a small percentage of the market share.
I would, if I would have had to bet everything I own on that, I would have lost everything I own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonder if it maybe what's getting stuck is the vehicle itself, the 401k. Clearly, there are millions and millions more that have different types of account statuses.
Yeah, they just may not chase 401k business since they're focused on the individual investor, maybe.
I love how in the weeds we are over this story.
Yeah.
It's like we just talked about 401k loans. We're like, I think that number's not right.
Yeah. Poor Vanguard.
Dane, what else? What other news stories can we run?
I can do a real quick one here. This might surprise you. On Monday of this past week, pro gamer Jacob Fancy Worthington took home $250,000 after winning EA's Madden Bowl. Pete, that's about 80 grand more than each Eagles player got winning the actual Super Bowl.
That's funny. Is it a nickname Fancy or is his middle name Fancy?
It's in quotes, so I'm going to assume that it's a nickname.
All right, Kristen's helping people move this weekend. Dane, what's on the agenda for you?
Big divisional swim weekend.
Oh, you got to travel for it?
It's close by, about an hour.
Grand Rapids for me for another sub-freezing soccer match outdoors.
Well, honk as you drive by.
To Kristen, because I'm going up 31.
Yeah, I was going to say you're not coming.
Fine.
You're just gonna go 31.
Kristen, I might stop at your house tonight.
You could come help us move. That'd be cool.
All right, that's all we have time for this week. Of course, as this show goes, you can watch it at youtube.com/Pete the Planner. Of course, download it wherever you get your podcasts. Sending you good vibes because good vibes are all that's in the budget. I'm Pete the Planner. This is the Pete the Planner Show. There we go. Dame. Wow.
Yeah,
I was with you. I was like, dude, there's literally nothing wrong with that. And then Paul Bunyan comes by with Blue the Ox. Was that the oxen's name? Blue?
Yeah, sure was.
Were there tall tales or fables or that's not a fable? What is that called? What's that called? Legends? Were these things taught when you were in school, Kristen?
I don't think so.
Like
Really.
John Henry, Paul Bunyan.
Really?
I also have a bad memory, but I don't really recall any of that.
Well, if they were made into a movie, we know you didn't see that.
That's true as well.
All right, fam. I don't know. That was fun.
I think it worked out.
Yeah.
That was good. It was really good. Really good.
All right. So that's all we have time for this week. Please download the show and listen it back amongst your loved ones. That's all I've got. I'm Pete the Planner. Stay getting money.